Hello, sir.
Hello, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. I've started doing a weird thing.
Yeah, what's that?
It might not be that weird, but I feel a little bit weird about it, which is I've started listening to us
Oh, really?
regularly. Yes.
Are you doing a little quality control, or what's the angle?
No, it's less about that, and it's I think it's like after a week, I almost can't remember what we talked about, and I'm like kind of addicted to like people building companies podcasts, and there's just not that many of them. Like I can't make Brian and Jordan publish more often, despite offering to bribe them, and so it's like, well, I guess I'll listen to me talk about this. I've forgotten so much by the time that I listen to it. It's almost like a new experience.
I used to listen to us more back in the days when I was like more apprehensive about my own ability on the mic, and like I would listen back and tear apart every sentence I said and try to figure out how I can do better. It was not good. But at a certain point I became more consistently, I would come out of an episode recording and feel like, man, I really tanked that one. It was not good. And then I listened back to it and I'm like, oh, that actually sounds fine. So at that point I kind of stopped listening regularly, but it would be interesting to occasionally do that.
I kind of like it. I like that I listen to it sometimes. And I'm like, hey, this is a pretty good podcast. I really like the cold open, actually. I just hit play and instantly we're talking. There's something about that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I feel like very few people do that. So it's kind of a unique trademark for us.
Yeah. We invented that. So that's fun. I'm also I'm in a bit of a weird state of mind right now because have started a 48-hour fast.
Ooh, yeah. So how many hours in are you?
I'm 4 hours in.
Okay.
Now, that shouldn't be that many, but like I am like an eat 6 or 7 times a day person. Like I have a fast metabolism. I eat a lot, and I have a large body. I take a lot of food. So I'm used to eating all the time. So I'm already hungry.
You're looking a little white right now.
Yeah. I gotta adjust my studio lighting, I guess.
What's the motivation behind doing this?
There are a number of purported health benefits to fasting. This is one of those things where there's not a ton of amazing scientific data that is not like mouse-based or rat-based studies. So who knows if this is really good for you, but it seems like the data shows it probably is. There's something good about fasting, like where it causes positive things for your body. One of the things that it does is this thing called autophagy. It looks like autophagy if you write it out. So it's like self-eating, basically. So when your body doesn't have enough calories, one of the things it does is it actually will go through and kill off and eat and consume older cells or cells that are sort of exhibiting problems. There's some indication that this has the potential of killing off precancerous cells. So cells that might turn into cancer because they're sort of like cancer comes from a cell that is broken, like has like DNA damage and doesn't know how to stop dividing. And so a cell can sort of exist in this precancerous state where it's not doing that yet, but it might because it's kind of broken. And so there's some indication that autophagy can occur when you fast long enough, and you might be able to sort of clean out those cells and prevent them from developing.
So you're just kicking off the garbage collector, basically.
That's kind of it, yeah. Yeah, and so it's kind of like a cleanse, but actually it kind of actually works. Like cleanses are garbage, like bullshit, totally nonsense. But this actually appears to be something that's good. I'm pretty healthy, and so like I'm probably not gonna get heart disease because I get enough exercise. But cancer is always just like one of those things that can just randomly just show up and just kill you. And so I don't want to get cancer. And so I'm going to try to not get cancer.
Because I know some people do like intermittent fasting, right? And I guess that's a more frequent cadence and shorter periods. And so why this longer 48 hours as opposed to like a shorter stint?
So you trigger a little bit of autophagy after like a 16-hour fast, which is pretty common for intermittent fasting, but it doesn't really ramp up until later on. So like I think you hit max autophagy actually like 72 hours. So to really get it going, you need to do it for longer. 48 is more than 16. You get more of it. So I've done 24 hours. And so this kind of felt like level 2. Like I'll try the 2 days and see how that goes. So part of it is autophagy, but part of it is literally just like, what is it like to not eat for 2 days? Like, what does that feel like? Like, I'm just kind of curious. I just want to know how much it sucks.
Yeah, I would be very hangry, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a little rough. It's going to be rough. Like fasting makes you realize how habitually you eat, where it's like I had to put like a twist tie on my snack cabinet to remind me, like, don't just grab something, because I like right before this I was like, ooh, I'm a little bit hungry, like what can I grab? Like grab some nuts or grab some whatever. I was like, nope, And so and there's just like so many social things and whatnot. It's just like it's all about putting calories in our body. So
I'm interested to see what the arc of your like energy levels looks like after this. Cause I know for me, like I will be especially hungry if I've had a very like mentally taxing morning. I'll notice like I'm ravenous by like 11 a.m. And then other mornings where it's like been kind of less productive or more menial work. It's like, I don't seem to be that hungry. So there seems to be like a correlation for me in like how hungry I am and the amount of like mental output. And so I'm wondering like,
yeah, I mean, your brain is an incredibly expensive organ to run.
Yeah, right.
So if you're running it fast like that, just eats up tons of fuel. I don't know the science that well on this, but there is this process called ketosis, where you move from, generally your body would rather burn glucose for fuel, which you get from food. But if you stop eating for long enough or eat a certain diet, your body will switch to ketosis, where it burns fat for fuel. And that's, it's like its backup system where it doesn't really want to do it. It would rather not because it's kind of more hard or something. And so I think like people have pretty commonly reported like they're really hungry for a while and then they kind of, it fades after a day or two and they feel a little bit less hungry and they also feel more mentally alert. Where at first your body is like, you don't have enough fuel to run the brain because you're used to processing glucose and none's coming in, but then your body starts to kick off ketosis and suddenly you have, fuel now to run the brain again. And also like you as an evolutionary adaptation, if you start to get hungry, if you start to starve, your body actually kicks into high gear. Like it's like, all right, there's no food. We got to figure this out or we're going to die. This is a priority one problem. Like, let's go. People actually report like better mental clarity and acuity, like while fasting because of that.
Interesting. Yeah, I imagine there's a phase after like my 11 a.m. like starving where like if I just push beyond that, there's probably a whole bunch of like experience that I've never actually had because I always just eat,
Exactly. Yeah. And I did experience that where I was very hungry and then it would go away and it would kind of come back and the fantasies would start.
Yep.
Food fantasy. So I'm curious to see what happens post 24 because like I don't know like what happens on that like second night of sleep. What's that like? And then I wake up in the morning and again it's like I'm just curious. I think it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Well, definitely report back.
I will. And this time last time I did this, I tried to do 48 hours, but I failed at 24 because I was like, well, I got really hungry and I started fantasizing about pizza. And then no one was doing it with me. And so there's no one to keep me honest. And I was just like, well, 24 is longer than I've ever gone before. Whatever, call it a win. And I went and got some pizza. But this time I've tweeted about it and like we have a Discord running and there's some people in it and some friends have joined me. So it's like, okay, now it'd be a lot harder to quit now.
Yeah, a little accountability. That's always good.
Never hurts.
Yeah. And you stated it here, so you definitely can't fall off the wagon now.
I mean, yeah, it would be harder for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm up to. Tuple stuff's going well. The big thing we're working on right now is actually multi-way calls. So we are going to release like a version 1 of that soonish, it's looking. Spencer has been cranking on that. This is like our most requested feature by far, which is nice. And we're doing a simple version for the first pass. Like this is just going to be like, you can add a third person and they can watch and that's it. It's not like full control for everyone or like swapping who's in control or whatever. It's just like kind of like a very basic, like you're pairing on something, you want to call in a designer to have them take a look at it or like a product manager or get someone to offer an opinion or whatever. And they can kind of pop in, see what you're doing, talk to you, and then leave. And that's kind of it for now, for version 1.
Yeah. Nice. That'll be good to have. And then you can squeeze a little juice out of that and email everybody who's using the product and,
100%
re-engage and all that. So that's good.
Yeah. And I've been surveying people that asked for this feature. And this has been like a meta habit that I think is actually serving us very well, which is like, I keep trying to put these little tripwires or like around the product and the world to like have people give us feedback. So I wrote like a little roadmap doc. It was like, here's the things we want to ship in the next couple months. And one of them is multi-way. And so I added a little thing there that was like, hey, by the way, if you're interested in this, could you fill out the survey and tell us what you're thinking? And so like every day or so, we get like another thing from that survey. It's like, oh, there's another person weighing in. And it's just like a chance for people to kind of give us feedback and make sure we're building the right things. And then there's a place in the product to give us feedback. There's a support address. There's a Slack channel. There's Twitter. It's just like I'm trying to like have all these like places where people can kind of talk to us.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, optimize for getting data flowing in. At a manageable rate, and it sounds like it's still manageable and not like a barrage.
It's not quite a barrage yet.
Yeah,
but it's nice. Like my inbox is like people filling out our customer development survey as they join the mailing list, or people filling out that multi-way call survey or support request or whatever. And it's just nice. I feel like I have like this sort of steady drumbeat of like feedback and customer words coming into my life, and I kind of can like let it pass through me.
It's good. That's what you need in the product role.
Yeah, I think that seems important. It's like people would just sort of tell you how to build the product, which is kind of great.
Yeah.
And you need some taste. And it turns out like people say multi-way calls, and like there's a lot of UX decisions that come out of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the basic idea of like, should we do this or should we do this is like, it's been really helpful to have people telling us things.
Yeah, and it's beautiful when these kind of patterns emerge. I remember this from Drip early days where like it just kind of became clear like this is obviously the next important thing on the roadmap because enough people independently request it in some fashion or another, or they allude to the underlying problem that would be solved by this feature. And anytime those fall out, it's always like a great gift, because a lot of times you can go through a phase where there's not a whole lot of clarity and you're kind of like, I guess I'm going to make some hypotheses now because you're operating on imperfect information. But when these patterns emerge, it's awesome.
Yeah, we're totally in that phase. It's almost a gift to be missing clear features because everyone just says, make this thing. And it's like, okay, we'll make the thing. So that there's like basically like 3 or 4 things that just cover 90% of requests, which is like awesome. So pretty pumped about to get those things shipped.
Yeah, totally.
And one of them is like just more performance, which I'm excited to like really gonna go nuts on. We have some fun ideas for that I think are gonna make a big difference.
Nice.
Nothing like major is getting done exactly this week, but it feels like another like sort of fairly solid like week in the books of like the product's a bit better, the company's a bit better. We hired a bookkeeping service, that kind of thing. So like just all the little processes are kind of moving along.
Nice. Now, I think we talked offline about you potentially setting a launch date. Is that public information yet, or are you ready to state it?
So no, I'm not even sure we're going to set a public launch date yet. I actually had a call with Adam this morning talking about potential strategies of like, on the one end is like fully self-service, totally launched, everyone can use it. And the other end is like, keeping more like what we're doing where there's some sort of like throttling and manual intervention and decision-making and whatnot. And we came up with some things that I think are kind of interesting in middle grounds. There is a lot of value actually into having, and you sort of may have built a company around this, to capturing people's email addresses when they're on your website. If I have a buy button on the website, 1% of people will buy, and the 99% might never see again. But if I have a, like sign up for the invite list thing, maybe 10% or 15% of people will drop an email in there. And then still we'll get that 1% buying, but maybe it'll be 2% because I can send these people good things over time and they don't have to buy, but maybe once a month I'm like, hey, here's a cool pair programming article. Or, just like I can just building an email list is a good idea, he said, surprising no one. So I'm a little bit reluctant to give up that like people sort of joining our circle and being able to stay in touch with them to some degree.
Right, because are you feeling like if you have just a buy button and there's not a free incentive built into that specific action for them to give you their email address and then make a buying decision? So you're wanting to basically keep a front up where you have to provide an email address, then you can maybe be given the option to buy.
So there's a few motivations. One is like email addresses are useful. So if I can get them, that'd be good. 2 is it adds a little bit of exclusivity to it. I don't know if that's actually really worth that much, but like maybe this idea of like you don't quite get it right away helps a little bit in perception. I'm not sure. That might just be all nonsense. Also, because of the way we are doing the product where it's like there's not a free trial and there's like an upfront cost and whatnot, I think I'm going to have to sell people a little bit more than if there were. They could just like get going. And so being able to like maybe send them an email or 2 of like, here's some stuff that you might want to know about and think about and whatnot. And then that landing page doesn't have to do the full sales job all at once. That seems useful too.
Yep. I think that's good to definitely like optimize for trying to get as many email addresses from drive-by visitors as you can, whether it's through kind of the drip approach in the early days was kind of the toaster widget, which is, I don't know, kind of gone up and down in fad and effectiveness, I feel like. Still an effective strategy for sure to have some kind of like free incentive or something like that to capture email addresses. But It's also very potent if you have to give an email address to even make it to the next step of potentially getting access to the product. That's
Right. It's clear to me, actually, from people's survey responses that we sent of the survey we sent out to mailing list subscribers, that some of them are not interested in purchasing anytime soon, but they do actually want to stay in touch. They want to hear about when it launches. They want to hear about progress. So just having a buy button or go away means we would lose those people most likely.
right.
So no final decisions there, but that's something I'm thinking about. The idea of a launch date appeals. I don't know. I think we'll do that. I don't know. It's nice to draw a line and be like, okay, it forces us to sort of figure out scope and decide what's going to ship before, then, and after. And I like that slight pressure of the launch date, and having a sort of a splashy launch could lead to a really good sales day kind of thing. But I mean, we don't necessarily need those things, and so I'm trying to think about what the trade off is. What do we have if we keep it less easy access?
Especially while you still have a list of people in the pipeline. I mean, you make it to the point where that list has dwindled a bit, and maybe you're not at full replacement rate. So then it's like, well, what's the next move to make? It's maybe a marketable event to get a big splash or something. But yeah,
I'm a little bit scared of that next phase where it's like, okay, we've run through the whole list. Now I have to do marketing for real or something, because everyone that finds us through Twitter or a podcast, and so it's like, can I keep those channels working reliably? I don't know. That doesn't feel like a channel really. So it's like, do I have to go try ads or something, or conferences, or I don't know.
I feel like that by the time you get to the point where your list is exhausted, you will hopefully have a good sense of where's the word of mouth coming from. Are you getting referrals? Does an affiliate program make sense? Is this the kind of product that works well for that kind of model, or is it paid acquisition? It was interesting. I was listening to Justin Jackson talk to Adam on Full Stack Radio. He's kind of talking about his two phases for Transistor, starting out obviously with his personal audience and getting as much exposure and splash from that. And then, things just kind of start, word of mouth engine sort of begins to crank up, and then that leads to other opportunities, and they ultimately end up going, heavy down the affiliate route because so many people are just kind of referring platforms to their friends and stuff like that. But you'll get more information about that once you get deeper into having more people exposed to the product.
Yeah, I'm hoping that word of mouth just kicks in and people share it, and we just get 40 or 50 new trials a month, and I don't have to do anything fancy, and I can just keep tweeting about stuff and podcasting and being a guest and whatever. But it might not work that way. It makes me a little bit nervous, but also it's just another problem to go solve, and I'll talk to people that are good at it and get some ideas and test some things and figure it out every other thing that we've had to figure out. So it doesn't have to be a big scary thing. I think I'm playing it up in my head a little bit right now. But we'll figure it out, probably.
Yep. Well, that's the art of building a product.
It sure is. It's part of it. One of the many arts that you need to actually make a company.
Yep.
And not just a product.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be the art of companies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We should rebrand this podcast. The art of companies. Mm-hmm. Nice.
Cool. Yeah, so what's up with you?
Yeah, so I did a launch.
Hey. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so
all the details, please.
So I did, a batch of 500 people, as I'd mentioned before. I basically sent an email on, it was on Thursday before Easter weekend. So holiday weekend for a lot of people, right? And I also talked about this a little bit on the last podcast that I gave myself about a week to get my tasks done. And then I was like, well, actually I need to be getting on this early in the week, lest I invite people to try out a new product on Friday, which would not be good. So I decided to send basically a warm-up email on Thursday, letting people know that here's a reminder of what level is in case you've forgotten, and here's why you should care about it, and here's some high-level points about what the product does, some key features of it, and a little screenshot of what it looks like, just to whet people's appetite a little bit, and then let them know that their access is coming on Monday, and so to look out for more details. And so did that, and then on Monday sent the invite email.
How did you pick the 500?
I skewed it towards a more recent group of people who got on the list. And I kind of debated this, is this unfair to skew towards this group of people? But I don't feel like there's a right or wrong way to do this. And for me, I really wanted to optimize for a group of people that had hopefully not forgotten totally about what level was. So just I can kind of get some early data that is not also skewed by the fact that they've just been on the list for a while and maybe, forgotten a bit about why they joined the list. we'll see moving forward if I end up flipping back to hitting older parts of the list or if I just keep going down in reverse order or what I do. But for this one, I wanted to start out that way. Yeah, I sent out the email on Monday and got a pretty decent open rate on that. I think somewhere around 70%. So of those, I kind of have a mini funnel with some metrics. So of the 500, 182 people created their user account. And it's sort of a two-step process when you create a level account today. First step is put in your email address, your name, and your username, and a password, and that creates your user account. And that's always free to have. You can, similar to like having a GitHub account or something, you can just have a level user account. And then from there, it automatically drops you into a demo account with some scaffolded data so you can poke around, see what the product's all about, get a feel for how posts and replies look and what the notification settings look like and so on. And I have a few guiding intro posts in there. So the first thing you see is like a welcome to your demo team. Have a look around. Here's some things you should look for. When you're ready, click this link to create your own team.
It's an interesting onboarding approach.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That's kind of cool. It sounds good.
Yeah.
I hate those tooltip things.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
But I feel like looking at an example is like a really good learning technique anyway, like teaching technique.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like people are like in all the sessions I've observed in Full Story, people click around a bunch. Like the first thing they do is just start clicking everything in the sidebar, clicking around. We're all smart functioning adults. Like we can get a sense for what things are, and things are called channels, and there's people and there's channels and there's an inbox. Like these are all constructs that are relatively simple to understand. So I did notice actually too that when you create your team, there is like a welcome to level kind of just scroll through 5 screens of little blurbs of information just to kind of give you a high level overview. And most people breeze through that really quickly. Like I think not too many people are actually reading that, which is fine, you know.
Yep. They're like, nope.
Yep.
Next.
Got it. I can figure it out myself. So
yeah, exactly. That's fascinating. I mean, sounds right.
Not surprising to me, you know.
Yeah.
So
my carefully crafted words.
Mm-hmm. I tried to pack.
I
tried to pack as much like value into the headlines, so it's like big bold text on each one, and then like a sentence under it. And so even if I can get like fragments of the headlines into their brain, that's good.
Yeah, I'm wondering if like as they click around, do you think they're getting a sense for like how level is different?
I think so, because it's staring you right in the face that like every conversation is threaded, for example. And then the fact that there's an inbox versus a feed of everything, you know, I think if people read my little blurb of text in the intro post, they'll kind of get that nuance. If not, maybe they'll kind of absorb it just naturally, like, oh, there are fewer things in this queue than there are in this feed. Like, I wonder why that is. And then they can kind of dig deeper if they don't automatically figure it out. And then, yeah, I have like mocked in emoji reactions and things so people can kind of still see that you can still have fun in level. I mean, almost everyone clicks into the settings area, which is like, here's your batch notifications, choose your times of day. So I feel like in general, people are probably getting a pretty good sense. So of the 182 that created user accounts, interestingly, 41 created a team. So first qualitative observation is like that feels like a pretty steep drop off. And I earmarked this for conversation after this rundown, but the creating your own team does not have a credit card form on it. So literally all you have to do is enter the name of the team and say go. Now the copy on there does say like you are starting your 30-day trial, level costs $8 per user per month. So like I think that's probably the reason why some people are not making it to that step, is because they're like, oh, do I want to kick off my trial right now or not?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, totally. That could definitely impact that.
Yeah. And then last bit of the people who created a team, so far 11 have at least one other member in them. So, you know, not just the person creating it, but inviting at least one other person who then created a user account and joined them. So those are the numbers. I feel pretty good. Like I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I'm pleased that there were so many. 36% creating user accounts to me feels good. And then from there, it's just an opportunity to engage with people and further nudge them down the funnel or figure out why they're not moving down. So
that's like 2%, basically 2.2% have like activated, like that 11 out of 500. From my invites to Tuple, like we're at like about that number, maybe. And like we are asking people to pay, so it's definitely forces that number lower by a lot, I imagine. Yeah, I see what you mean about the drop-offs, but maybe that's like kind of okay. Like that might be like a reasonable conversion rate of coldish mailing list subscriber to activated in the product. How did you feel about those numbers?
I felt better about the further up in the funnel numbers. More the further down in the funnel, it's like, oh, this feels small. You know, I'm watching the kind of my dashboards, and I'm like, come on, people. Okay, you created your own team. Now invite your people. Invite your people. So I've done a little bit of manual outreach, and so one of my takeaways from this is just to keep doing more like emailing specific people off the one-on-one, not a like, you know, drip email, but like from my inbox to theirs, like, hey, I noticed this. You know, why have you moved to the next step, or what's blocking you, or can I help you in any way? I have like a little bit of that happening automated already. Like I've played around with some drip triggers and stuff, but I think even more like one-on-one communication more likely to get responded to so far in my experience. So,
oh, totally, yeah. People can tell that you actually typed it and sent it
Mm-hmm.
versus an automated template for sure.
Yep.
These are people.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I think I feel pretty good. Like it's been a week of ups and downs. You know, the day of, it's like all these people rushing in, creating trials. Like it felt good, and then to watch usage start to taper off a bit, and like a good chunk of people not coming back in subsequent days. Like, okay, what's happening here? So just trying to manage my own psychology around this. Of like, this is, you know, this is a big ask. Like there are high switching costs to this. So there's going to be a lot of touch points to get people from looking at the product or like agreeing with the vision to actually implementing it on their team. And a big part of my job right now is to figure out, optimize each phase of that and getting people equipped with what they need to make it through that funnel effectively. And so if I put that hat on and I look at this as this is a data gathering experiment, you know, an exercise in figuring out how to optimize this, then I feel more positive about it. So,
one thing that's popping into my head is like Sebastian talking to us like a month or two ago, being like, what if this were like a $10,000 a month thing that started with a consulting engagement kind of deal with like Derrick training your team on this new communication style. And like, it feels like, so like you are asking people to do a lot, and you have a big, like it's a big request. And so self-serve might be more challenging than usual, since it's not like a bug tracker that maybe people can switch to or not.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm kind of at a fork in the road. I mean, I can always pivot over into like the higher touch consultative model, but like if I'm optimizing for the route where like someday signups will be opened up, people can come to the website, sign up for a demo, sign up for a trial, try it out, bring their team in, ultimately switch over. Like if I'm trying to make that all function well, then like getting all this nailed down feels really important to me right now. It would look completely different if I was like just strategically, if I was saying like, I'm only letting in people who feel the pain bad enough to pay me a bucket of money up front and believe that I can solve the problem for them. And so I'll do a bunch of high touch stuff. But those two, I think, just are very different implementation wise in my head.
Right. And you want to do the hands off thing.
I mean, that's ultimately the kind of company that I want to build. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been getting feedback from people, like the big drop for like the user to not creating a team? Like, have you heard from people like reasons that make sense to you that sound plausible?
Yeah. So I've gotten back a handful of like, oh, I'm just a developer on the team, really love the product. We're not in a position to adopt it, which is totally expected. I have a sense for, based on like Clearbit analysis of my list, like between 10 and 20% are probably like decision makers, and the rest are maybe just developers on a team or people who are otherwise interested, but not necessarily the one to make the buying decision at this moment. And so those were not surprising. I got the other theme that kind of emerged, which kind of exposes a choke point that I need to figure out how to smooth out, is that people are wanting to know like, okay, so I like this, but I have a bunch of integrations currently wired up, or maybe like I'm worried about how long it's going to take for people to just get their logins like set up for this new tool, and like what does that migration process look like, and how do I help people change their habits? Like I think people just have a lot of these questions floating around in their head, and thus the high switching costs, right? And so I don't really have today like great guidance on that. And so I've already been articulating on a one-on-one basis to people like, well, here are some approaches you can take if you're skeptical about going like all in. Because I think the fear is like, I had one person in particular tell me like, we're really interested in trialing this, but I'm interested to hear like, how can I do this without basically telling people they're not allowed to use Slack? And it's basically, I mean, it's a little mini sales job they have to do within their organization. It's a vision casting exercise, and it's a, what are we as a company? What do we believe in? What are we all about? Do we value this? And there's certainly going to be detractors and people who don't get it or don't feel the pain. And so probably the most important thing for me to be doing right now is to figure out how to help people in that regard as much as I can.
That makes sense to me. And I think as kind of a meta take on this, I think it would be really hard to iterate your way towards an automated version of this if you don't have a reliable high-touch version first. If you can't get teams to convert if they're all you're thinking about and you're like doing free work on their behalf, then automated probably will never work. But if you figure out the docs they need and the sales pitch they need and whatever, by working with them a lot, very closely, then you can turn that into automated stuff, I think.
Yep. For sure. I think, yeah, like the likelihood that I'll just nail it without iterating in a high touch way is just, the odds of that are very slim, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the next thing I'm going to be kind of fleshing out is some docs, like a guide for, and this is almost something I want to add to the sign up flow, is to figure out which role are you in? Are you a person on a team interested in like trying this out and not necessarily the decision maker, or are you the decision maker? Because I think there's kind of two different types of literature that you need. Like if you're just a developer on a team, it's like, how do I go about introducing this to my colleagues? And then how should I pitch this to my boss?
Totally. Dude, I need this too, actually.
Yeah.
So I have a lot, like almost everyone on my mailing list is a developer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like the engineering manager of some kind, but it's very often like a frontline developer.
Yeah.
And then like, they're like, cool, we're interested. Like, how much does it cost? And I tell them, and they're like, cool, let me go check and see if I can like do this. And I was like, whoop, that's probably dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that'll probably never close now.
Yeah.
I desperately need like a send this around. This is the thing that you show your boss kind of thing. Like that I need that asset real badly.
Yep.
Because it's a totally different sales pitch, right? Like developer cares about latency and command tab support and, crap like that. But like bosses wants to hear about collaboration and more pairing and fewer defects and happier remote team members and like just a whole different thing. And if I don't arm somebody with that, they can't make the pitch very well, and so they're probably going to fail.
Yeah. You're basically we need to fill in the gaps of the sales pitch. Like the developer can preach all day long about all the stuff you just mentioned, the keyboard shortcuts and all the techie things, but like their blind spot's going to be the business case. And on the flip side, like maybe the manager, the higher up in the org you are, you're going to be thinking about business case, but you're not. The developer's going to be like, why should I care about this? But if they have the information that's like, look at all these cool shortcuts and look at all these developer features built in.
Yes. Yeah. So like that demo video I recorded, people really like that. Like the developers really like that, but it's all product features. It's like, here's why the product is good and for developers, but that's not going to resonate nearly as well with someone who's like, man, we have so many bugs and I'm burning so much time on fixing bugs, and should I like hire a QA team and all that stuff? And it's like, tell this person like, yo, this leads to more pairing, which tends to lead to more, but like fewer bugs. Like, oh, that suddenly resonates in a way that latency never will.
Yeah, your CTO, VP of engineering video should be, it's all about the kind of the why pairing is important, basically, right? And
yeah, I need this so badly, actually.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah,
that's becoming increasingly clear to me. I'm still in the sales like pipeline with people basically, and I can just tell like when someone comes in and they're already like a management person, it tends to work. They tend to like say, okay, yeah, we're gonna try it. Here we go. Let's pay. But like when it starts as a developer, I'm actually pretty bad at like closing those, and I think I know why, or at least this will definitely help.
Mm-hmm. For sure, I think so. Those are sort of my two priorities right now coming out of this is like working on some of this, an early version of this documentation for kind of both parties, and just more manual outreach to figure out, well, what are the choke points? What are the blockers for people? And at this point, just trying to get information. It's so hard to get people to engage, which is frustrating in this role. But I'm sure I'm guilty of it too. I get, emails from product people, and I will admit I'm not always great at replying to them, but it's what we need. So
they might reply more if you charged them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We'll get there.
Okay. All right.
All right. So yeah, any other thoughts on this before we dive into the
No,
credit card?
I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so I came prepared because I knew that Ben Pricing Orenstein would would have probably some strong opinions on this. So I wanted to make sure my logic was sound. And who knows, maybe it's not, but we'll see. First observation is something I already mentioned, that like 10 to 20% of people are the decision makers, probably on my list. And the rest are people who you might consider more in like the kind of the grassroots adoption level of like, not necessarily the person who has the credit card to throw down, but very interested in the premise. And arguably, these are the people who need the product the most. The makers. There is obviously a business case to make, like for the, for a management tier, it's like your makers should not be disrupted all day long. Like there's a business case for that. But I would still argue that the makers feel the pain the most when managers are happily interrupting each other all day long because they don't care. Their days are chopped up. Meanwhile, the makers are suffering, right? So it's like they're gonna be the ones that feel it the most. Okay. So first question that leads me to ask is like, do I care about excluding that group of people from getting their hands on the product? Because I'm trying to envision like how many random, developer on a team will hit the trial sign up page and be willing to throw down their personal credit card or try to like ask their boss for the company card to do this trial credit card upfront trial. My gut's telling me very few are willing to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably true.
Okay. And so then my next question is like, do I believe that level's going to actually gain traction from the grassroots level or from a more top-down approach? Like, is it going to be the management tier saying like, we need this, we have the credit card in our hand, I'm willing to throw it down and do a trial with my team? Or is it going to come from, potentially some developers saying like, hey, I'm trying out this new tool. Hey, guy next to me, like, look at this. Oh, that looks really cool. And if they're armed with their information and their brochure or whatever, like whatever collateral they need to potentially pitch this to their boss, like, is that the mechanism by which level will start to take hold? I know what my gut's telling me is that grassroots will be important. And I think indications suggest that like that's how Slack gained a lot of traction in the early days, was not from necessarily a manager saying like, we need this on our team, but from developers just like using it. To me, putting a credit card form on the trial sign up is restrictive and is kind of counter to the letting the grassroots folks get their hands on a trial of the product and inviting their teammates in. Thoughts?
That seems like a reasonably sound argument. It doesn't feel clearly wrong to me. There are lots of apps that do free trials and plenty with no credit card because they want to encourage people to experience the product and have a good experience and then worry about paying for it later. So I don't know that I disagree with that, but I will just throw out some of the thoughts I had while I was listening to it. So one is that you have this drop off from like creating user account to creating a team. So at the end of the day, you start with 500 and then 41 people created a team. It could be that if you required even a free trial, but with a credit card up front, it could be that you would still end up with like 40 teams kind of thing, where like you would lose all those 140 people that like made an account and clicked around for 3 minutes and then left. None of those people would be still there or would be in that cohort perhaps. But you might still end up with, a couple dozen teams possibly that are maybe now a little bit more likely to keep going and like get to the like, okay, well, we're going to get charged for this. And so we're over the bar a little bit. So maybe we'll invite the other team members and blah, blah. But I don't know that that's true. I don't feel super strongly that this is like a clearly better approach.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's been hammered into me so much that like credit card up front or even better money up front is the way to go. It's been a difficult exercise for me to actually feel confident in saying like, I don't think that's the right move. Like, and my gut has told me that for a while, but I'm like, is this just me leaning towards too far in the direction of like fear around putting a credit card form blocker? But I don't think it's fear driven. I mean, I think the logic makes sense to me that like at the phase I'm in, I'm actively searching for, who are the people that this resonates with the most. Because there's a lot of people, obviously, because of the handle reservations, who are intrigued by the premise. They've read the manifesto. They agree with some or all of the parts of it. But who out of that group is actually going to be willing to switch over? I can't say for sure I know what that persona is going to look like. Like, I also look at it from the angle of what is it costing me to have more people getting their hands on the product? And to me, like the potential costs that stand out are load on the servers. Like, I could run into a scaling challenge early on that's negligible at this point. Or like support load, maybe a bunch of people asking questions when they never intend to pay. So far, that's been very negligible too. But the benefits are increased exposure, more opportunities for data, more people getting further along in the cycle. So like if a handful of developers who are on a team who are in no position to make a decision are playing around with the product and I have a chance to talk to them and educate them on how to pitch it to their boss, like I would much rather do that than them have gotten stopped at the sign up form because it required a credit card. I just feel like this is kicking the serendipity engine in a little bit, where like you just by getting more exposure and more hands on the product, like maybe it's not right for these people, but then they'll tell someone else about it who is a decision maker, and then they'll get interested by it, or someone will look over their shoulder when they're, sitting in their co-working space or whatever,
Mm-hmm. Yep. You have to get them to pay at some point. This is maybe like okay for sort of now, and it's like try it out and see what happens and get some good feedback and maybe tighten up your funnel a lot or learn some really useful things. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to get the payment. And so the biggest weakness of this approach is that it doesn't really answer the question like, will people pay for this yet? It pushes that data further
right
out.
And so that's actually the last bullet I had written down is like, I make it clear that level will cost money. And so if you do sign up for a trial, invite people in, and you actually start using it in that 30-day span, like I feel like there's a pretty good chance you're not gonna bail on it since when you signed up, it's like, no, this will cost money. This is not a free thing. And if you're continuing to use it, then like I feel like you're likely to pay. That's one thing. But also like, is it a top concern of mine to validate that people are willing to pay for the communication tool that drives all their internal communication? Like, I feel like in the grand scheme, that is pretty well validated by a very large market, maybe more than other tools where like, I don't know, I'm building some esoteric take on project management. Will people pay for this angle that I'm taking? And maybe that's more uncertain. I don't know. I feel like this is fairly well validated that if people choose to adopt this as their tool that drives their internal communication, that I don't think there's necessarily concern that they won't pay.
But given that you're not asking them to pay yet, I think what you really want to see is like a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
Like, are the 11 people that ended up inviting other team members, are they still using it?
There's moderate usage, but no one has like fully onboarded, I would say. No.
Yeah. Because I feel like you can like freemium grassroots kind of build up wow, this is so good. We're all using this. We're spending some social capital. Like, we're going to eventually pay for this for sure. That is a valid angle on this thing. But only if like when people start trying it, they're like, oh my God, yeah, this is it. We got to use this.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's good information for me to know that like if 11 make it in unencumbered, like have at it, go ahead and start using this with your team. I haven't required you to put a credit card on. Like there's very low barriers to getting in and trying this out. And if even under those circumstances, it's not biting, then I need to figure that out. That needs to be fixed. But I don't know if restricting the amount of data I have to maybe it would be 2 people that make it to that stage if I had a credit card up front. Now I only have data from 2. And is that data better than the data from the 11? Like, I don't know. I feel like regardless of whether you put your card on file, if you're in the app and you've invited at least one person and you're not getting on, like I would rather have more people in that position than fewer. If I'm trying to figure out how to fix that, what do people need to get it past that point? So that's my rationale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds plausible. I guess the thing I like about the charging is that the danger I feel like is, yep, we totally agree this is a problem. Yeah, we're not going to fix it. Like I think there's a lot of problems like that in the business world where it's like everyone like gets all excited about, yeah, this is garbage. I hate this. You're right. And then you're like, great, I made a thing to fix it. And you're like, oh, well, yeah, but I actually have other things to do. It's actually kind of fine. and like you're right, but like and so like getting people to like getting a little further on where it's like, is this a business problem that businesses will pay money to solve? It's maybe just that it's just not. And so charging people helps you, like, gets you a little bit further, or like a more stark answer, I guess.
I guess it speeds up the process, because I feel like if this cohort makes it through 30 days, all the trials have expired, and I can look at the numbers from that will get me the same information. Like if nobody converts, and I've given them even more opportunity, dropped the barriers to make their best run at getting onboarded onto the product. And by the end of 30 days, if they're not onboarded, I feel like I have the same information as if I had chopped off a chunk of people or disqualified a chunk of people because they didn't have a card to put on file. It's just a restricted data set and accelerating getting that information,
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of my bias is optimizing towards like learn it faster, I guess, but you're right that you probably learn a little bit like having more data points is good here too.
Yeah.
So
and I feel like
what you're saying.
This is a distinction to draw between, like, say, for example, Tuple and Level, where like Tuple is a pretty well understood like problem. Will this tool actually succeed at facilitating remote pair programming? And as long as it does what's written on the tin, like it's a well understood problem. And so I feel like the understanding of like what this thing does before people put their hands on it is pretty high. And so I feel like to ask someone to just say like, no, we're serious. We're actually doing this thing that you already understand and pay me money for it. Like that feels like a much more feasible ask than me saying like, oh no, I'm asking you basically to consider switching off of the tool that runs all of your team communication with this interesting new take on less distractive stuff. And people are like, cool, really interested to look at it. I'm curious to see how you've approached it. Like that's the kind of feedback I get. I don't know how often you hear like, I'm curious to hear how you've approached this pair programming tool. Like I'm sure there's some, but not a whole lot of like curiosity around your novel approach. And so because of that, there's inherent skepticism in people who are interested in Level. And I think a big way to mitigate that is by letting people try it. So that's my hypothesis, at least for now.
Okay. So is your plan to try to get more data and then invite another cohort in and see what happens?
Yeah, so I actually fired off another warm-up email to another 500 today. So I will be repeating and refining a bit kind of the automated emails and just a few of the details that I feel like could have been better and gather more data.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, should we wrap it?
Yeah, let's wrap it. Show notes?
Show notes can be found at artofproductpodcast.com.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.